What's going on, everybody? We've got a 3-game WNBA slate on Friday, and there are some really interesting spots on the board once you dig into the matchups, the rest situations, and the way these teams are trending right now. Let's get right into it. First game on the slate, Washington taking on Connecticut. Washington comes into this one as a 4.5-point favorite on the road, and the total sits at 163.5. And if you've been following this channel, you already know Washington has been one of the trickier teams to get a read on this season. They've given people plenty of reasons to believe, but they've also made the betting process frustrating at times. Right now, though, this is a team that has really started to turn the corner. They've pulled off back-to-back comeback road wins over elite opponents, and then they followed that up by taking Minnesota down to the wire again. Even in that loss, they were right there for most of the game. This is a young team that looks like it's growing up fast. That's what makes this matchup so interesting. On paper, Connecticut has some advantages. The Sun are coming off a huge 29-point win over Chicago that snapped a 7-game losing streak, and they've been getting better by the day. Over the last 5 games, they've climbed all the way to 7th in offensive rating, which is a big jump from dead last on the season. Defensively, they've also improved to 5th in defensive rating over that same stretch, up from 12th on the year. That's a big deal because Washington has struggled with turnovers all season. Connecticut scores the 5th most points off turnovers, and Washington gives up the most points off turnovers in the entire league. That's one of the clearest matchup edges in this game. The Sun also have an edge in the paint over their last 5 games. They've been scoring the 2nd most points in the paint, while Washington sits 8th in points allowed in that area. We already saw these two teams meet on June 17th, and Connecticut controlled the glass, outscored Washington in the paint, and won the points off turnovers battle by a wide margin. The only reason Washington pulled out that earlier game was shot making that feels hard to repeat. They were nearly perfect at the line and also shot really well from deep, while Connecticut had a much rougher shooting night. So even though fading Washington has been brutal lately, I'm not fully ready to trust Connecticut either. This feels like one of those spots where the Sun have a real case, but Washington's recent run makes it risky to step in front of them. For me, the side is a pass. But my best pick is over 163.5 points. I don't expect a track meet, but I do think Connecticut can score enough in the paint and off turnovers to help this game creep upward. Washington has been solid defensively overall, but the offensive and pace angles point me a little more toward the over than the under. Next up, Portland taking on Chicago. These two just played on Wednesday, and Chicago absolutely handled business in that one, winning 101-78. That's a pretty loud statement, and it's exactly the kind of performance that makes the market take notice. I said before that I needed to see Chicago consistently execute before I laid points with them, and they answered that call. They didn't just win that game, they dominated the glass and controlled the paint. That's the key again here. Portland has been dead last in rebounds per game across the entire league, and that's a massive problem against a team that can punish you inside and on the boards. In the last matchup, Chicago out-rebounded them by 9 and outscored them in the paint 56-33. In the season opener between these two, Chicago won by 15 and dominated the glass there too. This is now the 3rd head-to-head meeting, and Chicago has won both games by double digits already. Portland hasn't shown any real ability to stay within striking distance of this team, and I don't see a huge reason to expect that to change now. Chicago has had its own ups and downs, sure, but this is still a matchup where they hold the bigger bodies, the stronger front court, and the clear rebounding edge. Portland has been getting hammered on the boards, and that's the kind of weakness that can repeat itself quickly when the same opponent keeps exploiting it. So for me, my best pick is Chicago to win. For the total, I'm leaning over. Both teams want to push the pace, get out in transition, and score in a more up-tempo style. If Chicago is the side, I think they can do enough offensively to help this game move above the number. Last game on the slate, Atlanta taking on Golden State. This one is as close to a pick'em as it gets. Some books have Golden State laying 1.5, others have Atlanta laying 1.5, and the total is sitting at 161.5. We just saw these teams meet on Wednesday, and Golden State came away with a 77-66 win. That game was even less competitive than the final score might suggest. Now, it's always tough to beat the same team twice in a row, especially a team as good as Atlanta. But when one team physically controls a matchup the way Golden State did, that psychological edge can carry over. This is a really important matchup because Golden State's roster is built to challenge exactly what Atlanta wants to do. They are physical inside, quick on perimeter closeouts, and they force tough shots late in the clock. Atlanta, on the other hand, really struggled in the first meeting. They shot poorly from the field, struggled from deep, and even had a rough night at the line. The one positive for Atlanta is that they actually did a few things well. They held their own on the boards, forced more turnovers, and outscored Golden State in fast break points. So if they just shoot a little better, the game can absolutely flip. That said, Golden State's defense is the real story here. They are legit. They make teams uncomfortable, they defend with physicality, and at home they become even harder to deal with. So in a true pick-em, I'd give the slight edge to Golden State. But my best pick is over 161.5 points. Atlanta shot poorly in the last game, and I don't expect that same offensive struggles to repeat at that level. I'm not saying this turns into a shootout, but I do think there's room for some positive regression on the scoring side. So here's the board for Friday. Washington and Connecticut. I'm passing on the side here. Washington has been playing too well lately to blindly fade, but Connecticut has the matchup edges in turnover pressure and paint production. Because of that, I don't want to force a side, but I do have a slight lean to the over with both teams having paths to scoring. Chicago on the side. I like Chicago at home here. They just showed they can handle Portland comfortably, and they've already controlled the matchup on the glass and in the paint. Portland has not shown they can consistently stay inside the number against this team, so Chicago is the side I trust. Lean over in Portland and Chicago. I'm leaning over because both teams want to play at a quicker pace and attack in transition. If Chicago does its part offensively like it did in the last meeting, this game has a solid chance to move above the total. Golden State's slight lean on the side. This is close to a pick-em, but Golden State gets the slightest edge for me. They just handled Atlanta in the previous matchup, and their physical defense fits this opponent really well. I'm not calling it a strong play, but if I had to choose a side, I'd give Golden State the nod. Lean over in Atlanta and Golden State. I like the over here because Atlanta should shoot better than it did in the last game. Golden State's defense is strong, but the total is low enough that a little offensive improvement from Atlanta could be enough to push this game upward. So that's the board. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with somebody who's betting these games tonight. It helps the channel a lot, and it lets me keep bringing you these daily picks and breakdowns. And I'll catch you in the next one.